Hey everyone, welcome to episode 12 of Ferocious Finance, presented by Magic Gathering Strat. As always, I am your host, Ferociousllama. This week I want to talk about some things that are happening in Magic Online that really haven't happened before, so it's really interesting. But one other thing I wanted to point out before we get going was we changed the format of the show last week, and it seems to be popular and everybody seems to like it, is we're steering a little bit away from the recommendations every week because in our opinion, they got kind of, they were tedious to do, and we felt like it wasn't really entertainment for you guys, it wasn't educational, it was really just, hey, do this. And we figure you'd probably be better off if we took the information, gave it to you, and you guys could make your own decisions. So what we're going to do is every month, one time per month, every fourth week, we're still going to do recommendations, but we're not going to do every week, just because it takes a lot of time and it's a lot of energy for us to do, and we don't think there's a lot of entertainment value. So we hope you guys are going to enjoy the more educational content and less specific recommendations. So let's get started. Vintage Masters. If you've been following the prices lately for the past few weeks, the prices have been going up, and it seems like they seem to be accelerating. The rate at which they're going up seems to be accelerating. So this week they went up more than they did last week. And it's on every single card that was worth something before the Vintage Masters set was released. So it's kind of like all the playable cards seem to be really skyrocketing in value. And the question might be why? Yeah, obviously it's not that hard. It's because Vintage Masters is going off sale. But let's look at let's look at what's going on here. If you look at where Vintage Masters is in its life cycle, it's got another 3 weeks before it goes off sale online when Cons comes out. So why is it 3 weeks before it's going off, it's shooting up? And that's just because not a lot of people are playing it anymore. So the supply the new supply has basically gone away, and everybody's doing M15 drafts, and they're, selling cards or trading up or doing whatever for tickets so they can play in the Cons drafts. And then, of course, there's the fetch lands, which everybody's, gotta have fetch lands because they're expensive, but that's a whole other episode. I talked about it last week, but realistically, the fetch lands aren't going to be that expensive while they're in standard. It's once they go off sales when they're going to get expensive. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. But so anyway, what's going on here? And there's not a whole lot to explain about what's going on specifically, because we know all the cards that are of value are going up. But I want to mention a couple of notable cards. Look at Dak Faden, for example. Dak went up from like $6 or $10. It was like $4 at its lowest point, $3.80, and it slowly crept up. And it's a card I'd purchased a lot of copies of, specifically because if you went back. And I just kind of want to talk about a little bit of the methodology, is kind of what the point of all this is if we look at what I did to make that decision to go back and buy a whole bunch of DACs for $3.80, and I got my first 4 at $3.80, and then I think I got them at like 4 or something for the rest. But the thing that you have to look at is look at previous things that are similar. And the only thing, unfortunately, DAC's never been available online before, so that makes it really tough. But if we look at paper DAC, it's a pretty fair assumption to say, well, guy, it's not a bulk mythic in paper, so it's not going to be a bulk mythic in online. So anyway, right now, I went back and I looked at Conspiracy, and looked at the most expensive cards were Dak Faden, and the second most was Council's Judgment. And Council's Judgment's another one I want to make a point about. Is it was like 50 cents, $1. So I have a ton of those, and it's like, I think it's $2.83 as of the time of this recording. So it's one of those things where you really got to keep an eye out, and if you see a card that you're not sure if it's going to be good or not, find out if it's good in paper. Find out where it's good, find out where it's not good. And that's really what the trick is to, really trading well and, increasing the value of your collection, is to say, hey, look at this card, it's good. And then, or it's going to go up or it's going to go down, or, kind of use that to predict what's going to happen. But you also have to remember, look at what's happening in the market as far as, well, Vintage Masters are going to go away, so it's definitely going to go up. And, Dak, for example, is the most expensive card from Conspiracy, worth about $20. And he goes up to $20 in Conspiracy. And then let's look at it in online. Okay, it's $5, $6, whatever. It's inexpensive. And then what happens when Vintage Masters goes off sale, though? It's going to skyrocket. Everybody knows everything is going to skyrocket because all these cards, they're not going to be available again for, at least a couple of years. So pick up what you can right now and, make some money. So, that's kind of the whole thing, and it's really difficult for me to sit there and explain because it is a very, very complex set of circumstances online, because it's not just like, oh, well, this card's good, so it will go up. I mean, look at Voice of Resurgence. Yeah, it's a good card. No, it's not going to go up because it's rotating out of standard. So the things you want to look at is it a card that's playable, that's going to see play, or does it have some kind of intrinsic, collectability like the original dual lands do in paper, or, it seems like there's a lot of value to Force of Will and the original fetch lands online. Don't quote me on that, but, there's some prestige with owning Force of Will online, because for a long time it was the most expensive card. I think at one point it's a foil version was $240. So that was that was a big deal, most expensive card online. So so that's sort of the thing to look at is if there's a prestige to owning it, you might want to pick it up if the prestige is still going to be there, but it may disappear. Probably won't, but if it does, you'll want to be able to identify it and take advantage where you can. So anyway, I would say the most important thing is to look at the situation of like the set or the card itself, and for example, Wasteland would be another one, right? If you look at Wasteland, you'd say, okay, it's 70 tickets, right? Before Vintage Masters, you'd say, okay, Wasteland's 70 tickets. Should I buy Wasteland? Well, if it's not in Vintage Masters, you should. But if it is in Vintage Masters, you definitely should not. So it's really the situation of the card. And then, of course, Vintage Masters came out and it shot up to double that to $150-something. And of course, now it's coming back down because a lot of the players are. I don't know if people just played Vintage because they had Vintage Masters out and they're like, oh, I gotta play some Vintage now. But really couldn't afford like the real expensive competitive decks, because all the cards that aren't in Vintage Masters are still really expensive for Vintage. So, just a thought. And one other thing that I did want to talk about was, I play a lot of Vintage online since Vintage Masters came out, and it's kind of a problem finding people to play with. At like any given time, there's never really any more than 5 games going on. It kind of makes me a little bit sad, but it's one of those things where I think that a lot of these cards are going up in value simply because Vintage Masters is going off sale, and I really don't know if they're going to go up and stay up. Because, I mean, look at Wasteland. Everybody, I remember when Wasteland was going up, I talked to, some of my friends and people I work with, and everybody, and they said, oh, Wasteland's going up. It's going up $200 card. Going to be the most expensive card online. But it went up to about $153, and then it kind of started dropping back down. Just because the popularity of playing Vintage Constructed, it's a constructed format, Vintage, not Vintage Masters Drafts, was kind of losing popularity just because, Vintage is still very expensive, and it's prohibitively expensive for a lot of people. So that's something you always have to consider is what's going to happen to these cards next. Now, dual lands, obviously, they're like a safe keep, safe keep. Keep your dual lands, no big deal. You're not really risking anything with that. And like Dak and most of the mythics from Vintage Masters, I mean, even fast mon cards like that are 50 cents or whatever, it's worth it. So, it's just kind of a look at the situation, look at the card. I'm going to say most of the restricted cards from Vintage probably aren't going to get terribly expensive just because they were released recently and they're restricted. So you only need one, you only need it for Vintage, because most cards restricted in Vintage are not playable in Legacy or banned in Legacy rather. So it's kind of, if you ask me, it's kind of one of those things where I think like cards like Fast Bond, it might go up to a few bucks, but I don't think it's like a huge deal or anything. I don't think you're going to make a fortune off Fast Bonds, because I think it's going to be number one, it's going to be not going to go up a ton. It might go up to $5. Yeah, you make 10 times your money, but it'll take a couple of years before it gets back up to $5. And if you have 100 copies or 1,000 copies, you ain't selling them all right away. It's going to take forever to move that many copies of, you know, that specific card, because you're not selling them 4 at a time, you're selling them 1 at a time. So that's another thing to think about. So yeah. So I just want to say, just stay cautious, and, you know, don't go throwing a whole ton of money into a bunch of cards that are going up right now on Vintage Masters. And I'm not saying they're going to go up. They're not going to go up, or that they are going to go down. But what I am saying is, I think that this is kind of just a spike. So if you're trying to unload some cards, I would say now might not be a bad time to unload them, and then buy them again right before Vintage Masters goes off sale, when a lot of people are like, oh, okay, I'm not playing Vintage anymore, and there's no more Vintage Masters, so I'm going to unload my cards. So just because I have had a lot of people unloading a lot of... me and Dan both, we've talked about a lot of people who've been selling tons of Moxes lately, like lots and lots of Moxes. You know, there have just been several that I bought through my bot, and so, you know, it's like people are just cashing out, and I've bought a lot of collections lately of people who decided, oh yeah, I don't want to play anymore online, so they go ahead and sell their collection, and that's that. They sell the collection. It's always got, you know, a few Moxes. One of them had, you know, a couple Moxes. One had a few Moxes. So it really depends on, you know, what the players are doing. So it's the situation, the cards, the quality of the cards. There's a lot of things to really think about when you're investing, and that's kind of really what the whole point of all this was today. So just, you know, invest smart. And if you guys have any questions, send me a tweet, send me a Facebook message, send me an email. Or comment down in the comments, and I'll answer any questions that I can. I try to stay active in the community. So, alright guys, that's all for episode 12 of Ferocious Finance, presented by Magic Gathering Strat, and as always, I'm your host, Ferociousllama. So if you have any questions, or about any questions about specific investments, or you have any comments about the show, comments about anything, go ahead and leave me a comment down below in the comment section. Send me an email at mtgconfidant@gmail.com, or follow me on Twitter, or friend me on Facebook. Send me a message there. So I always try to stay active on my social media. So till next time, invest smart, and talk to you guys next time.